I never had mine jammed. And I carried it through the mud and the water. And the only thing I didn't like when I first went over there is every 100 rounds you had to put another one in under fire, you know. And I got quick. I mean, I could change out my bag in less than 10 seconds, but 10 seconds, if you're under fire, seems like it's forever. It's like time stops, but you're still getting shot at, and you're going, and it's dark because we only operated at night. And I went through probably 7, 8 firefights, starting not to like the gun because every 100 rounds was killing. Flip out a magazine on an M-16 was nothing. Well, mine, you know, I could carry about 700 rounds, and they were all in 100-round pouches. And they had a slide down a channel in the dark, you know. You had to open it up. Linkage left in there. You got to clear it out. And then you got to slide it down this little bitty wedgy thing. And then pull the rounds out, put it in there, close the lid, and then you could start shooting again. All under fire. I've done it while I was running. You know, because a lot of times we didn't stay and fight. We weren't made for that. Our purpose was to hit them and go. Well, if we got attacked, we're not going to stay there and fight. Don't have enough ammo. And not that the Vietnamese or Viet Cong didn't have enough ammo, but most of the time there was more of them than there was of us. We'd gotten a firefight and we was low on ammo. And we was like 8, 9 clicks from base. We was about 2.5 clicks from where our boat was. And we called him for support. I'd have been Tui. And, you know, we gave him our position and told him we was low on ammo and all this stuff. And there was only 4 of us. We had already captured 4 Viet Cong when we came under fire. And it took about 45 minutes. They had some Hueys that were closer than Bentui, and they came in to help us. And it was one thing I liked about the helicopter flight guys over there. They come in under fire, especially if it was Navy SEALs. They're going to get us out. And the whole time they had the door gunner with his M-60 just, you know, just mowing down the woods. And I had happened to jump on the helicopter where he was at, and I was sitting right next to him. And that M-60 rounds are just blowing my eardrums out, you know, but I was watching them, and he never ran out of ammo because they had these trays that the M-60s were just laid in, and had a flex tube that came out of that tray and it went up into the M-60, and them rounds just would fall like grease. Man, I'm not even paying attention to getting shot at. I'm just looking at that M-60 and I'm looking at that flex tube on there. And I'm going, I hit him on the leg and I said, "What is that?" And he looked at me like, I said, "What is this stuff here?" And I touched it. He said, "That's flex tube." I said, "Where you get that from?" He said, "Why, you want it?" I said, "Yeah, I think I could do something with that." Well, he just disconnects it and gives it to me. And I still had no idea what I was going to do. And we get back to base, and I couldn't carry him in that piece of flex tube. And blah, blah, blah. I said, "What is that?" And I said, "It's called flex tube." He said, "I'm going to make something out of it." And he looked like, "Well, okay, whatever." And it was a couple of days, and we had a CB camp. It was about 15 miles from where we were based. And I went over there one day, and they built everything. And I took empty ammo cans, and I said, "Can you weld these?" Because that flex tube fit right into the lip of the ammo can. It had to be connected to it. I said, "Can you weld up these ammo cans?" And I want to put on a rucksack. And that took me the longest to figure out how to connect it to that rucksack to where it didn't come off. But I spent about a week and a half after they built it, and I finally had it on that rucksack, and I filled it up, and I could put 1,500 rounds in it. When I went to pick up, I said, "Oh, man," because that was 105 pounds. So I said, I'm going to try it. Now, I only used it if we was going somewhere where we was just going to be in rice paddies. Couldn't go through the mangroves with it. But we did a lot of ambushes off of rice paddies. They'd have little bitty tree lines I could go through. I opened up on that thing. It was like being in hog heaven. Didn't run out of ammo. Unless we got in a big firefight, but we normally didn't ever try to take on any more we could chew, even though we knew we could take them out. Because I carried right at 160 pounds of gear. So I still carried a law, I carried Willie Peters, I carried frag grenades, carried my 6-shooter, my 38. I took about 150, 160 pounds, and I only weighed 160 pounds when I went over. When I came back, I weighed 200. And so just humping that stuff all the time. And I went barefoot. I started off with jungle boots like everybody. The gun, mine weighed less than 29 pounds. I took all the garbage off of it. I never was going to use a tripod and all that stuff. I never thought about the weight. But when I wore boots, even before, with the 7 pouches and my gun, every time it's nothing but mud in South Vietnam. You don't go anywhere where there's really hard ground. Up north, they had bunkers and all that. They had mountains up there. We just swamp. And we'd go on these ops, and you had to be quiet. Even without that first deal, my rucksack one, I still weighed 100 pounds of gear. I'd step in that mud and I'd sink in and, carrying M-16, I don't weigh nothing. Rounds don't weigh anything. Everybody carried a law. Everybody carried grenades, Willie Peter. But they just walked a lot better than I did. And you only can move as fast as everybody can move. Well, I had to move slow because that mud makes all that suction noise. And we're supposed to be quiet. So I think it was back in my 3rd week, I told my boss, I said, "Boss," he said, I'm going barefoot. He looked at me and said, "You know what's out there?" I said, "Yeah, leeches and ants and snakes." I said, "But man," I said, this mud is killing me. As I get back off an op, I feel like I'm back in training. I said, I need to be able to walk. Because when I went barefoot, I didn't get stuck anywhere. I'd come back with cuts on my feet, but after, I think, a month of going barefoot, I had calluses on my feet. I could walk through anything. When I got back from Vietnam, I had calluses this thick. I felt tripwires where I wouldn't really feel them with jungle boots. The hooches we would go into would be from the Vietnamese that worked with us. They knew, they had tax collectors. The North Vietnamese, the NVA didn't supply the Viet Cong. They had to come up with their own way of getting what they needed, ammo and so forth. So they had these tax collectors that would go around taking money from Vietnamese. The ones that worked with us, they would tell us where they lived, what hooch they lived in, and we'd make up an op to go get them and sneak into their hooch, take them while they were sleeping, and sleeping with other Vietnamese, Viet Cong in there. We never got caught. Me and 2 other guys, we went on to capture 3 Viet Cong. And because we didn't operate, we only one time went, all 14 of us, and nearly got wiped out. So we said, okay, we're not do that no more. That was just being stupid and green. Both platoons would go out every night or every other night. We didn't operate every night, but we would go different parts of Vietnam. Sometimes 3 or 4 of us would go. All depends on the less, the better. When they would go into hooches to get them, I was security. I carried the M-60. And one time we went and captured 3. And it was a hamlet of about 15 hooches. And of course the Vietnamese guy went with us because he knew what hooches they lived in. And I was rear security at the beginning of where you would go into this compound. The 2 guys would go get them and they'd bring them to me. I'd tie them up. After we got our 3rd one, we went in by sampan. And it was a pretty good sized sampan, but they're still not made for Americans. And of course I was wearing my rucksack and I had my M-60, and we take the 3 that we captured back to the sampan. We put them in the sampan, and I was the last one to get on that sampan. Well, the currents over there the rivers are always just moving. Well, the sampan had pulled away from the bank, and it's pitch dark. I mean, you ain't seen dark until you went to Vietnam. I mean, when it was dark, you couldn't see this far in front of your face. Well, the boat had moved. I went to get in the boat and I went into the river. And I'd only been wearing that rucksack probably about 3 weeks, I guess. And when I went in, I went to the bottom. Of course, you learn as you go. I didn't put any holes in the ammo cans. Well, they filled up with water. And if I was wearing boots, I don't think I would have ever made it back to the surface. Well, I can make it almost to the surface, but I couldn't get up out of the water because there was so much weight on the back because the water didn't have no place to go. Well, the sand pan was still there. They were trying to hold it to the bank. And I went down probably 3 times before I came back up. And, you know, I could make it to get myself a breath of air, but I couldn't get up out. It was just too much weight on my back. And finally wanted to, I think it was Lynch. It was Wade and Lynch and me that went. We always pretended we were Viet Cong. We wore black pajamas and walked through the jungle like we were Vietnamese. And we captured quite a few Vietnamese that way. Anyway, he grabbed me, and he could barely get me out of the water because, I mean, I already had 105 pounds on my back. I don't know how much more that water made it all weigh. Well, after that, I decided I'd drill holes, and I drilled holes all over those ammo cans, where if I ever fell in I never fell in the river again, but I never got to sneak into the hooch because I was always carrying all the heavy gear. But they just, we didn't make noise. I still don't make noise. Bonnie gets on my case all the time because all of a sudden I'm just there and she just freaks out. So where'd you come from? I said, I tried to make noise. No, you didn't. I didn't hear you. And I said, you know, I still walk quietly. Everything that we did over there was from intel. That's what, you know, we make up our own operations. They would tell us where a weapons cache is. That was one of the things, or a cache of rice. We go destroy it. You know, without food and without their weapons, they're not too effective. So we went after a lot of stuff like that. To disrupt the Viet Cong, because they're good fighters. They're tough. And when I interrogated the ones I brought back, they didn't give up much of anything. I try to interrogate them. They understand a little bit of what I say, but I just could never quite connect with their dialect. The war started changing before we finished our deployment. They were wanting us to announce that we would shoot. So I was always saying, "Dung Lai come to line." You know, it's sort of like the cops here. You're going to stop or I'll shoot. Well, that's what Dung Lai come to line means, stop or I'll shoot. The war was changing where if you got shot at, you had to call your main base and tell you were coming under fire, can I fire? You know, we're going, y'all are nuts. I said, this is stupid, this is a war. I said, I'm not going to wait to call in to shoot at somebody. I said, if somebody shoots at me, I'm shooting back. And, you know, a lot of times we would go on ops and didn't turn in reports because we weren't doing the rules of engagement the way they wanted it to be done. You know, the war became too political in the 70s. The purpose why we went, I understood it. You know, stop communism. You know, now they're communists. You know, all the years we spent there, the French spent 25, 30 years fighting. They didn't win nothing. You know, when they left, it was still there, still the same problem. Me and Ron Creer, we were pretty tight. He was in my platoon, and we decided we wanted to go to Bentui. My boss, you know, said that well, the vehicles we had, we'd stole, and he said I couldn't take the vehicles up to Bentui. He said you'd have to find your way there. So I said okay. I said all right, we're going to go up there and spend a few days. It was about a 3-hour drive to Bentui. And we hitched rides all the way up there, and we went up to Bentui, and we partied and did our stuff up in Bentui. And Bentui was a gigantic military base. We was coming back. I took my M-60 with me, and I just took about 5 pouches. I wasn't going to carry that big rucksack. And Ron took his M-16 and over and under grenade launcher, and he took about 10 magazines, and we went up there and we partied, and we was coming back, and we was on top of a bus and full of Vietnamese. And I guess we was probably, and we was trying to get back before dark, because nothing runs after dark, and there ain't nothing really in between Binh Tui and Rock Dry Rocksoy but little hamlets here and there in Viet Cong. We're riding on top of the bus, and the bus is slowing down, and the bus stops. Everybody starts getting off. It just felt like it was in the middle of nowhere. We seen a couple of hooches, you know. There was about 20 people on the bus, and we're going, I looked at Ron and said, this don't look right. He said, yeah. He said, where are they all going? You know, next thing you know, you just don't see them anymore. We come under fire. And I'll go, and the bus driver hightailed it. So me and Ron get off the top of the bus, and we see where the fire's coming from. So we run off into the woods, and then we see them coming after us. There was about 8 or 9 of them. So I start shooting at them. They're shooting at us. And I said, well, Ron, I said, let's keep on Bigfooting it down the path. So this goes on for about 10 minutes, and there happened to be a Lambretta driving by on the road. And I jump out in the road, and I point my M-60 at him to stop. And he stops, and I get on, and I tell him in Vietnamese to drive. And we're getting shot at. And it's almost dark. And he's telling me he can't drive because this ain't really a road. It's just concrete and blacktop. It's dirt and some blacktop, and then, you know, so forth. And he said he can't. And he wanted to know where I had to take him. I said, Rock Dry. He said, no, go ahead, go. And they're shooting at us, and I'm shooting at them, and I told him, I said, go. So, of course, a Lambretta goes faster than they can run. You know what a Lambretta is. A motorcycle that has a built-in box that maybe 6 or 8 people can sit on, these little skinny seats, and they, you know, pay them, you know, it's like a taxi. So anyway, I convinced him to just drive. It's got a little bitty headlight on it, but it doesn't really do much of anything. And he finally decides, because he's getting shot at too, and if it's Viet Cong, they'd probably just kill him because he's Vietnamese. So we make it back, and I told my boss what happened, and he goes, well, he said, y'all can't do this anymore. You know, can't just take rides and go off gallivanting through Vietnam. Somehow or another, the word got out that 2 Americans were traveling on the bus. So they were waiting for us at this stop, because it was, like I said, there was a hooch here and a hooch there, but it wasn't a town. You know, I'm going, why are they stopping, Ron? We made it back.